Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here, and Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you guys have had a very good New Year celebration, and I hope that 2023 will be a great year for you. Right? Thank you for all the support in 2022. I couldn't have reached 3K subscribers by the end of last year. Now that it's last year, I couldn't have hit this milestone without each and every one of you guys. So I'm really thankful for that. Right? And hopefully we can keep this up and see where this channel can grow until. Right. So we're going to focus today a really quick video, right, on how I'm going to line up for GW19, and that's because the turnaround is really tight, right? So I'm going to keep this video short and basically just tell you guys what I'm thinking about during this short turnaround and the transfer moves that I've made. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. If you do, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. So Game week 18, this was how I did very quickly. I dropped from 414k in the world to 460k, so a small-ish red arrow. So I'm okay with that, and that's because I think a lot of things that could have gone the other way in other situations. Take for example Ben White. He was subbed off in the 59th minute. Right? If he was subbed off in the 60th minute instead, I would get those clean sheet points, and that would actually put me on a green arrow. So small margins like this, I'm not too affected by this red arrow, but hopefully we can pick up some green arrows along the way. We're trying to aim for top 100k in the next coming game weeks. So starting in goal, right, Kepa 3 points. I think pretty disappointing performance from Chelsea. Nottingham Forest, they haven't been that great. They lost their first game after the restart to Manchester United 3-0, right? But Chelsea unfortunately could not match their result and drew 1-1 instead, right? So poor performance from Chelsea defensively and attackingly as well, and that will kind of affect how I decide to line up in Game Week 19, as you will see the changes I've made. Right, so Kepa 3 points, Mount also 2 points, right? So the Chelsea boys pretty disappointing there. They are quite big differentials as well. In the back line, Trippier doing what he always does, 8 points. Ben White, as I mentioned, just 1 point because he was subbed off a minute earlier, right? And then Patterson initially wasn't in my team, but because Cancelo has been benched for the second week running, so Patterson automatically subbed in. So 1 point for Patterson. Right, and then for the rest of the midfield, Salah blanked, right, 2 points. Martinelli with a really great performance there, 1 goal, 1 assist, right? So very happy that I still have him, and I think I'm going to keep him for quite a while, right? I'm looking to triple up on Arsenal, in fact, right? Odegaard is someone that I'm looking at maybe in the long term, maybe Game Week 21 when they double, right? And then Rashford, he didn't start, right, but he came on, scored, and later on in the post-match interview, he actually revealed that it was because he overslept. Right, so these kind of things can happen, right? But I'm still glad that he managed to get some minutes and of course get the goal. And then Almiron 3 points. Newcastle had a pretty tight game against Leeds, right? They did put up quite a good fight. So 3 points for Almiron. He's not going anywhere in my team. He's gonna stay right where he is. And then there's Haaland, captain, who scored 1 goal against Everton, right? Even though Man City drew 1-1, right? But thankfully Haaland still got the assist. And then Darwin with an assist against the very, I guess, shaky Leicester, right? Who kind of scored 2 own goals, but in all honesty, that should have been a Darwin finish, right? But that wouldn't have mattered too much, I think, right? Darwin 5 points, I'll take it. He's not going anywhere in my team as well, as you guys will see later on in my Game Week 19 team selection. So let's move on to it. So for Game Week 19, this is my final team, right? Locked and loaded, transfers already made. The only decision that I have to make is whether I want to leave the captain's armband on Mitrovic or Captain Haaland instead. Right, so as you guys can tell, I made a couple of changes. So Reece James and Archer are the ones that I've removed, and I've brought in Bueno, right, and I also brought in Mitrovic. Now, James to Bueno funds pretty much provides the funds for the Archer to Mitrovic move. Now, one of the reasons why I didn't consider Luke Shaw, right, is because Manchester United, yes, they have improved defensively, but they do have a couple of tough fixtures coming up after this Bournemouth game in Game Week 19. So they have Man City and Arsenal back-to-back, right? So I wouldn't want those Manchester United players, and I understand the hype surrounding Luke Shaw right now, but I'm thinking that if I delay that move until maybe Game Week 21 onwards, where Manchester United's fixtures actually do pick up after the back-to-back games against Manchester City and Arsenal, I can actually jump on Darlow, who I think is a way better option than Luke Shaw. Alright, so for now, I've delayed the Manchester United defensive asset. I've instead gone for a downgrade of James to Bueno, and I've upgraded Archer to Mitrovic, right? Mainly because I think I want some Fulham coverage during Game Week 19. I think Chelsea haven't looked convincing at all. And then if you look at Fulham's first fixture, Leicester away is also a very good fixture for them to get some returns. Right, so obviously Mitrovic, the main one that I want to bring in, also because I don't see myself removing any of my midfielders, right? Mount, Rashford, Martinelli, Salah, and Almiron. I can't remove any of them, especially since Almiron's fixtures after they play Arsenal this game week, right, get so good as well, right? Newcastle's fixtures are really good actually, right? So I've pretty much made a move that I think is probably the only one that I'm comfortable with, right? Because other ways that I could have done this was maybe Darwin to Mitrovic, but then again, Darwin always gets those chances and I don't want to remove him, right? Other possibilities that I could have done is I could have downgraded Cancelo as well. If I downgraded Cancelo to Luke Shaw and then upgraded Archer to Mitrovic, that would also provide enough funds, but then I'll be left with Reece James, who's unplayable on my bench as well because he's out for quite a while. And on top of that, right, I actually think that Cancelo may start to come into the Man City team again. Right? I understand that he has had 2 benchings, but I don't think we see him get benched for so many games in a row, right? So something else to consider as well is that Man City has dropped points. So that may play into Pep's mind and possibly think, okay, maybe we bring Cancelo back in and provide some stability to the defense again. So for now, I actually am okay with taking the risk that I think Cancelo will start, but even if he doesn't, right, I do have some good options on the bench. Now, Patterson and Bueno are all playing players, right? So in the event that Cancelo doesn't play, I do have subs, and let's say he gets benched again, right, and I instead have to play a defender. I think Patterson and Bueno are defenders that I'm alright to play, right? I can alternate them whenever they have good fixtures. So that's why I've made those 2 moves, and this is how the team is lining up. So Kepa in goal, right? Double game week. I'm not expecting too many returns from the Chelsea defense, and that's why I think just one player, Kepa, to cover that Chelsea defense is enough, right? And if they do pick up a few clean sheets, then that is welcome as well, right? But if they don't, I'm not expecting too much, and that's also why I haven't considered players like Cucurella as well. And then in the defense, there's Trippier, Ben White, and Cancelo. So Cancelo, as I mentioned, I think there's a chance he could come back. Now there's a shout for me to play Patterson or Bueno ahead of Cancelo, but I actually think that Chelsea have looked so poor attackingly. Even though I have Mason Mount, I still think that against Forest they look so bad. I think it's possible that if Cancelo starts, City do keep a clean sheet. I do predict City to actually maybe take it down 2-0 or 3-0, in which case I think Cancelo will get a clean sheet if he starts. Right, and then Ben White and Trippier, they're pretty much the only 2 that I'm comfortable starting at this point, because I think there is a clean sheet for either one of them. Right? I don't think it'll be a game where both of them score. And on top of that, I'm not confident of Patterson and Bueno ahead of Trippier or White. Right, and that's because Ben White is playing at home. There's a possibility that Arsenal can take it down maybe 1-0, 2-0. Right, and there's also a chance that Trippier can get attacking returns as well. Right, so no matter what, I think I want to play Trippier, and I prefer White ahead of Patterson and Bueno. Now in midfield, there's Salah, Martinelli, Rashford, and Mount. I think this midfield pretty much plays itself, and Almiron against Arsenal away, I'm okay to bench him as my first sub. Right, then up front, there's Mitrovic, Haaland, and Darwin. Right, Darwin, who I'm not comfortable with selling. I think he will continue to get chances. So Darwin will play Brentford away. He's up front. Right, Haaland as well, of course, and then Mitrovic with that double who I just brought in. So at this point, I'm currently only deciding on whether I want to leave the captain's armband on Mitrovic or put it on Haaland instead. I doubt I would put it on Mason Mount, even though initially I was thinking of that, but Chelsea's attack just hasn't convinced me at all after that Forest game. Right, so it's probably Mitrovic or Haaland. That's probably the last decision I have to make. So hopefully this video is helpful for you guys. Let me know what you guys are doing with your teams with this short turnaround, and so many things to consider as well. I did have to tinker quite a bit to come up with these moves. So let me know what you guys are doing. Maybe we can see are there any players that were missing out for the later game weeks, etc. Right, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please give it a like, subscribe as well. If you are new around here, there won't be a deadline stream for Game Week 19. That's because the turnaround is too tight, so I'm unable to stream for Game Week 19. But deadline streams will be back from Game Week 20 onwards. So once again, Happy New Year, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye-bye.